All right, so I'm going to go over some nutrition basics. The first thing you're going to want to do is build the base of your pyramid when it comes to nutrition. And we're talking about eating healthy, eating for the long term. Because a lot of people that I work with and train are just regular people that want to get in shape and take care of their body. It could be you. Maybe you have a performance goal and you're striving to lift a certain amount of weight or build muscle or get super lean for a bodybuilding show. It varies from person to person, but I like to base things off something long term because you don't want to do something that's going to be short term, because a lot of the time what people do is they just go back and forth between diets and they end up getting fatter in the process, and they have too much of a short term view, and you should never have a short term view when it comes to your body, your health, and your fitness. So the first thing I want to talk about is the base of the pyramid, which is nutrition, and then there's the base. You think about a pyramid and there's two sections. The base of the pyramid is real food. That is really where your emphasis should be: eating real food, eating foods with the least amount of processing possible. And you want the least amount of processing possible because you don't eat foods that trick your appetite centers, that mess with your genes in a negative way. Again, this can be debatable depending on what camp you believe in, whether you believe in the paleo diet, evolution biology with nutrition. It doesn't matter. Everyone is kind of in the same agreement when it comes to nutrition that you shouldn't eat a whole lot of processed food and keep them to a minimum. And that simply means stay away from packaged food or minimize your packaged food intake. People say that cereals and breads are okay, and I agree, they're okay. If you're morbidly obese and really fat, you probably don't want to eat a whole lot of that. You definitely want to cut that back a lot. But just because you have some bread, it's not necessarily a time to go ahead and quit your diet because you screwed up on the paleo diet or whatnot. Now, I'm not saying I'm a big believer in the paleo diet, and I like the paleo diet, but I don't shove it down people's throats because it's not practical for some people. And I really try to give people some principles to live by. And that first thing, again, is eat real food: meat and vegetables and fruit. If you're going to eat grains, rice and potatoes are typically the best kinds of grains to eat because they have the least amount of processing. You want to stay away from sugar. You want to stay away from Snickers bars and candy bars and all these sweet treats, because a lot of the time with baked goods and processed foods is that they have what is called hyperpalatability. They're very, very good tasting. They taste awesome. And they make, like, my mouth is watering just thinking about a donut right now, a Krispy Kreme donut. And a lot of the time what happens is they bypass appetite centers and they skip a step. And what this does, it causes you to eat more food, overeat. And this is beneficial if you're trying to gain muscle mass and gain weight, but it's not beneficial if you're trying to lose body fat or just control your weight. So focus on eating real food. That's the base. The next step above that would be focusing on macronutrients. There's carbs, protein, and fat. Those are the three things. Those are the three bases. Carbs, typically grains, fruits, vegetables. Then you have proteins, which is meats, steak, beef, fish, stuff like that. And you have fats, typically like butter, oils, fat that's in the meat, that kind of thing. Avocados are a good source of fat. Now, the first thing I try to teach clients, once they figure out the whole foods thing, making sure they eat real food, the next step is focusing on your protein intake. Is going to be very important to monitor and stay focused on. You don't necessarily have to do it every day, and that's what I recommend to a lot of people, is that you track it for at least 3 or 4 days out of the week. So you focus on getting enough protein every day. And how do you know how much protein you're taking in or how much you should? If you know your body fat percentage, all you need to do is take your grams of your body weight muscle mass, your lean body mass weight, and you eat 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. If you don't know your body fat percentage, one good guide is about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. That's a really good guide. So I'm roughly 200 pounds, so I need to have a minimum of 160 grams of protein a day. Now, I can have more, but that's kind of like my minimum. People will say that you should have more, maybe like 1 gram, like 200 grams of protein a day, or maybe 1.2 grams. In that case, that would be like 240 grams a day. And that tends to be a waste of money, and it costs too much, and it isn't really worth the extra boost in performance and muscle gain, assuming that there is any, because a lot of research has shown that it doesn't really provide that great of a benefit when you eat more than about a gram per pound of body weight, which in itself is already a lot. So that's the pyramid. Imagine here we have the bottom, which is eat real food. The second step, which is focus on your macronutrients. The first macronutrient you're focused on is protein. Meat, beef, steak, fish, pork, that kind of stuff. And then the other two things to consider is carbs and fat. Now, how much carbs and how much fat you have, it's really kind of up to you. It depends on your goals. Typically, you want to keep your carbohydrates lower if you're trying to lose some body fat, because typically when you lower your carbohydrates, you will eat less calories, essentially, and you will tend to be more full. But I don't recommend you lower them too low, because otherwise it'll make your energy drop too quickly, and it'll make it difficult for you to work out well. Not to say that you need a whole lot of carbs, but definitely going down to zero carbs is not ideal for people who like to work out really, really hard. And then fats. How much fat should you have? There's actually a lot of research out there now that saturated fat is no longer bad for you. It's not a risk for you, as long as you have a fairly balanced diet, which means you get enough protein, you get enough carbs. So you shouldn't be really worried about saturated fat. What you should be worried about is trans fats or any processed food. That's the reason why you stay away from processed foods. It's one of the reasons is to stay away from trans fats. It's because processed foods have trans fats. And that's pretty much what you need to start with in a nutshell. This is the basic place to start. You focus on eating real food, eat your protein requirement every day, and your carbs and fat should fit up to the amount of calories you need to take in. Now that's another step to figure out, but right now, at least in this video, I'll make more videos on this, but on this video, those are the two main things you need to focus on. That is your protein intake and eating real food. And then have the rest you just massage the numbers. You journal your food, you keep track of how you're eating, and that's the first place to start. So if you like this video, click like for me. If you'd like to learn more information about nutrition or have any other ideas for you like to share, or maybe some ideas, go ahead and hit comments in the comments box. And that's all I got.